Feng Lianying came into her sense immediately. Looking at Heshi trying to escape, she couldn't help shouting furiously, "Are you all dead? 5 gold core stages can't even stop a foundation establishment stage? If she runs away, you all are better off dead." Those 5 Lu Li sect disciples' faces were extremely ugly, but they still pursued Heshi due to the fear of Feng Lianying. Seeing that Heshi was about to pass the boundary between the rank 4 and 5 magical beast areas, a huge spiritual pressure suddenly came from behind her. Heshi's face changed. Her body suddenly turned in midair, and she avoided the fatal blow. But because of this dodge, 2 gold core stage martial artists appeared behind her soon, blocking her escape completely. One of the older men had the advanced level of gold core stage. He held a small blue bell in his hand, making clanging sound. He was the one who made the fatal blow. He looked at Heshi with pity. He said in an undertone, "Sorry, we don't want to make a move with a woman for you. It's your fault who offended someone you shouldn't." As he spoke, the man's small bell was launched again. The martial artists around him also launched their flying sword in cooperation. Heshi's current strength was only 60% of the original. Of course, she couldn't stop the attacks of 2 gold core stage experts. She could only retreat step by step. Finally, she was forced into the face of Feng Lianying again. She was besieged once again. Feng Lianying looked at Heshi, who looked flustered being surrounded by Heshi, and she laughed. "You, when you showed off to me on that day, when you embarrassed me at the public trial conference, did you think you would have such fate today? But you can rest assured that I will not kill you. How can killing you vent my hatred? Not only I will not kill you, but I will also hand you to someone to let you enjoy the ultimate joy." After speaking, Feng Lianying took out a talisman and quickly burned the talisman. After the talisman was burned, a flash of light quickly flashed on the ground in front of Feng Lianying. After the light, people in black robes appeared in the light. The leader was a man of about 40 years old. He looked extremely sinister and weird. His hands and feet are extremely slender. His face was like a shoehorn. His eyes were long and narrow, but his eyes were drooping instead of slanting. Even his mouth corner was drooping also. He gave others the sinister feeling. He was also surrounded by 7 men wearing the same black clothes and black robes, and even the same hairstyle decoration. Each of them was extremely ugly. Some had crooked eyes and mouth, some had a face full of pimple, some only had 1 eyeball. All in all, everyone looked disgusting. But their bodies were exuding a bone-chilling breath, making people couldn't help but shiver. The weirdest thing was that these people obviously seemed badass, but they didn't seem to have any cultivation. When Feng Lianying saw the few people, disgusted expression revealed on her face. Then she walked up and laughed. "Mr. Liao, I have let you wait for so long at the Breaking Spirit Mountain. I'm really sorry." The middle-aged man, known as Mr. Liao, lifted his eyelids, then he made an evil laugh. "Miss Feng specifically asked me to come to Breaking Spirit Mountain before big hunting match, saying that you have a gift for me. But I have been waiting in the Breaking Spirit Mountain for 8 days. There were some young ladies and young men passing by. I really wanted to catch them to have fun. Now, I'm filled up with anger. If Miss Feng's present can't satisfy me, then..." Feng Lianying was startled by his gloomy expression, and she immediately laughed. "Since I specifically asked Mr. Liao to come, the gift that I offer will naturally satisfy Mr. Liao. Why don't Mr. Liao see it for yourself?" As Feng Lianying spoke, she sneered as she pointed her finger at Heshi not far away. Mr. Liao's eyes with horror and death turned slowly as he couldn't control them. It took a short while before he set his gaze on Heshi. The next moment, Mr. Liao's whole body trembled. His eyes widened incredibly. Perfect masterpiece. How could there be such a perfect masterpiece in this world? Mr. Liao's dead eyes suddenly became extremely hot. It was like a viper staring at his prey. He glanced at Heshi's body from top to bottom. Look at the tender skin, the lips that are softer and pinky that flower, and the slim body figure. Ugh. Mr. Liao kept inhaling, but his whole body twitched uncontrollably, then he laughed sinisterly after a while. It was just that the laughter was less sinister than the previous one, but there was cruel and craziness of a pervert. As long as I think about stripping away such an exquisite body, put her in a 1,000-needle cage, letting poisonous snake and ants crawl on her body, listening to her screaming and crying, watching her white skin bleeding. That was really wonderful. I am really fascinated by it. No, such a perfect masterpiece can't be damaged so quickly. I want to put a collar on her, drag her beautiful neck, and let her lie on the ground to please me. When I get bored, I will tear off her flawless skin and hang on my bed. Just by thinking this, I couldn't stop trembling with excitement. Mr. Liao said more and more excited, but the disciples of Lu Li sect couldn't help but show an unbearable expression. Although they were mostly murderous as martial artists, they were so terrifying by the means of torture. As soon as they thought that the little girl like a flower would be so tortured by this old pervert, their hearts burst into guilt. The more Feng Lianying listened to Mr. Liao, the happier she was. When she thought of Heshi's tragic end, she couldn't help but tremble with excitement like Mr. Liao. Mr. Liao, are you still satisfied with this gift? Satisfied. Too satisfied. Mr. Liao chuckled. As long as Miss Feng hands this person to me, I will never reject any request of Miss. Feng Lianying's face had a sinister smile on her face. She looked at Heshi's beautiful face from afar and slowly said, I said earlier that this person is a gift to Sir. Of course, I will hand her to you. However, before I hand it over to Sir, I hope that Mr. Liao can show me a wonderful show with your disciple. She raised her finger as she spoke. 2 talismans appeared in her hands. Feng Lianying's gaze looking at Heshi as if they were poisonous and vicious, but full of pride and excitement. I have prepared these 2 recording talismans. As soon as Sir made a move, I will record this so that I can send it to others to let them enjoy. As soon as Mr. Liao's eyes turned, he immediately understood the meaning of Feng Lianying. No wonder Feng Lianying asked him to bring some of his ugly disciples, and she also found some ways to send only the Meridian stage martial artists to the rank 5 magical beast area. Mr. Liao immediately laughed. How difficult is this? Since Miss Feng wants to see it, we will definitely make Miss enjoy it. My disciples haven't encountered a delicious tender girl in a long time. They are blessed to have Miss Feng's kindness. The 7 incomparably ugly men in black robes couldn't help laughing, and they were looking at the unearthly lady with lust and greed. Although following Mr. Liao, they could occasionally play beautiful women, they had never encountered such a perfect lady. Today, they could enjoy such a beautiful lady's body. It made their blood boiled. Feng Lianying smiled and turned to look at Heshi, thinking that she could see fear and surprise in her face. However, to her surprise, Heshi's expression was calm from beginning to end. Heshi was even looking at Feng Lianying with her eyes full of disdain and contempt like she was watching a bunch of stinking waste. Feng Lianying's anger surged into her head. This bitch? How can she look at me like that? She was going to tear her mask and make her cry and beg for mercy. Thinking of this, Feng Lianying took a deep breath. She suddenly said faintly to Mr. Liao, Mr. Liao, in order to let you better entertain her, I want to give you another present. After speaking, Feng Lianying's palm spread out, and a dark red bug appeared in her palm. Feng Lianying exhaled softly at the little bug, and a weird smile filled the corner of his mouth. When Heshi took out the little bug, Heshi had a bad feeling in her mind. Before she knew what was wrong, she felt a sudden rush of heat in her abdomen. This heat flow was completely different from the burning pain of the injured meridians. It was like there were countless small bugs surging in the lower abdomen. Everywhere the bugs went, there were numbness, itchiness, and burning hot. She couldn't refrain herself from groaning and trembling. Heshi's eyes finally showed a hint of fear. Feng Lianying, you actually poisoned me? I was poisoned? Why did I not notice it at all? No, it wasn't done just now, but it was just when entering the teleporting array of Breaking Spirit Mountain. Heshi remembered the inscribed jade slip that hurt her. At that time, the poison had already permeated into her body. No, maybe it isn't poison. Heshi's gaze fell on the little bug in Feng Lianying's palm. Psst. Voodoo. When Feng Lianying saw Heshi's always calm and self-sustained face finally revealed a panicked expression, she suddenly laughed. This is not a drug, but a spirit voodoo. and it is the most ferocious love-devouring voodoo in the spirit voodoo. My master raised this love-devouring voodoo with a lot of hardship. He has to feed the mother voodoo with the blood of 999 girls with only one attribute for 3 years. After the mother voodoo gives to offspring voodoo, then let the offspring voodoo devours the 999 girls. After that, the offspring voodoo will fight each other until the number of voodoo reduce from 1,000 to 10. Shiyu, I have wasted one precious offspring voodoo on you. You should be grateful. Love-devouring voodoo. Mr. Liao couldn't help but compliment. I did not expect that the master of the Thousand Poisons Valley can cultivate love-devouring voodoo. If the level of love-devouring voodoo is high enough, the mother voodoo can control those who are cursed by the offspring voodoo. It can make the cursed party fall in love with him or her desperately. It can even make the target kill himself. 1. https://www.com/in-yang 629214. Mr. Liao really knows the goods. Feng Lianying smiled lovely. Although the level of this offspring voodoo of love-devouring voodoo is only level 3, it can absolutely make people burn in lust. Mr. Liao, you can see this woman lying on the ground and pleasing you to pamper her in a while. Never mind your disciples are just ugly, even if it is magical beast, she will please without hesitation. Love-devouring voodoo's lust desire can't be able to resist with human will. Ha! Mr. Liao glanced at Heshi. He that her cheeks were peachy red, and she seemed to have with an enchanting charm. His mouth was dry by just looking at her. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Miss Feng thought so thoughtfully, you can rest assured that I will not disappoint your expectations. As he spoke, several people laughed and approached Heshi. Heshi felt that the fire in her body was burning, making her limbs weak. She couldn't even hold the sword in her hand. However, there was a burst of madness in her heart. There was an anger to perish together with the enemies. Feng Lianying saw that Heshi still wanted to use the flying sword in her hands, and she laughed. Shiyu, don't you know that spirit voodoo's favorite is spiritual power? The more you use spiritual power, the more active spirit voodoo is. Haha, I advise you to be obedient. There are so many people serving you, you don't have to worry about not being able to satisfy the poison of love-devouring voodoo. I'm good enough for you, right? Before Feng Lianying's words were finished, Heshi lifted her head abruptly and said coldly, Feng Lianying, die. As soon as she spoke, she rose into the sky. The Li Shui sword slashed at the sky fiercely. Immediately afterward, swords rain fell from the sky at Feng Lianying and the others. Feng Lianying was so certain that Heshi would lose. She didn't expect Heshi to have the chance to fight back after she was infected by the love-devouring voodoo. She was caught off guard. The sword's rain had already reached the top of her head before she managed to channel her spiritual power. The shadow of death enveloped Feng Lianying. She screamed and pulled Nie Jinshin around her, trying to throw him into the air to block the sword's rain. However, Nie Jinshin moved faster than her. He quickly caught another disciple of Lu Li sect and threw him at the sky. Ah! A miserable scream went through the sky. That disciple also had no time to activate the spiritual power shield. He was instantly penetrated by the sword rains in the sky and died. Bang! The body dropped from high altitude and rolled on the ground. The disciple's eyes turned white, blood flowed out from the 7 orifices. The pair eyes were staring deadly at Feng Lianying's direction. Feng Lianying fell to the ground, shuddering all over her body. She only regained conscious a moment later. She screamed suddenly, Shiyu, are you looking for death? She took out the mother voodoo abruptly, bit her tongue, and spat a mouthful of blood toward the mother voodoo. Heshi's face turned white for a moment, then her face became more flushed. She couldn't help groaning. That sound was so sweet as if it was honey sweet with a tender charm. Heshi's heart sank a little. Feng Lianying shouted at Mr. Liao and others, what are you guys waiting for? Do you want to enjoy this woman's body? Mr. Liao recollected his mind. He was smiling evilly. His gaze at Heshi looked a little dignified. Obviously, she was just a girl at the foundation establishment stage. Logically, she couldn't fight back at all after being infected by the love-devouring voodoo. However, she was still able to make such a powerful move, and even killed a Lu Li Sek's Gold Core stage disciple. This girl's qualifications and talents seemed to be much higher than Feng Lianying. It was no wonder that Feng Lianying would be so jealous of her. However, the stronger she was, the more stubborn she was. Would he be more excited and delight to torture her? Feng Lianying saw Mr. Liao and others stayed still for a long time, thinking that they were also scared by Hishi's move just now, and she couldn't help but snort, "Mr. Liao, don't you know that spiritual voodoo loves spirit the most? This bitch is still fine if she didn't make a move, but she used the flying sword forcefully. That will only make the love-devouring voodoo more active. Can't you see that she can't even stand still now? Are Mr. Liao afraid of such a charming and defenseless girl?" Mr. Liao laughed. "Why would I be afraid? Miss Feng, you don't have to be anxious. We will show you a good show that makes you satisfied now." Then he waved at several disciples and walked in the direction of Heshi. Heshi's situation at this time was indeed not good. Her cheeks were already redder than peach, and her eyes were covered with mist. The things in her eyes seemed to have double shadows. Her vision was shaking so badly. The fire in her body surged again and again, making her unable to resist that she wanted to tear up all the clothes on her body. Every inch of her skin became extremely fragile and sensitive. Even if it was just a gentle wind, it made her want to moan and shiver. However, her pride and her self-esteem did not allow her to show such an embarrassing ugly look in front of the vicious woman, Feng Lianying. Heshi saw Mr. Liao and several of his disciples coming toward her, surrounding her in the center. There were non-stop laughter and heavy gasps from the few black men. A dozen of eyes were looking at her. They were full of disgusting obscene and lust. Heshi raised the Li Shui sword in her hand, trying to kill all those around him. Mr. Liao suddenly pulled out a black barbed whip and whipped heavily on Heshi. After a tearing sound, Heshi reached out and blocked, but the Li Shui sword fell to the ground. The sleeve on her arm was ripped by the whip as well, exposing the crystal-clear jade arm. The red whip drew on the smooth skin. It was just like the red plums falling in the snow. It was so gorgeous, making people eager of trampling her and torturing her ruthlessly to leave more marks. Mr. Liao trembled with excitement. The hand that was holding the black whip hand cramped until the blue veins became obvious. He stared straight at Heshi, kept swallowing his saliva, and sneered, "Baby, did the whipping just now make you happy? Do you want more?" Don't look at me with such terrifying eyes. Love-devouring voodoo will make the host eager to be abused. You will soon kneel under my feet, lick my toes, and beg me to continue whipping you." With that said, Mr. Liao quickly made a second whip which was directed at the clothes on Heshi's chest. This whip had barbs. If she was whipped, her clothes would be torn easily, exposing her white jade skin. The eyes of Mr. Liao and his disciples were all beaming. They greedily looked at the weak girl in front of them who was going to be trampled by them. However, when the whip waved in front of Heshi, suddenly a slender white hand appeared out of thin air and clutched the whip. She dragged her hand so hard that Mr. Liao was caught off guard. She actually dragged away his whip. Even Mr. Liao stumbled by the drag. Heshi's movements didn't stop for a moment. She first whipped away Mr. Liao who was closest to her, then she turned around and whipped at Mr. Liao's two disciples. The two disciples' cultivation was actually not high. They were summoned by Feng Lianying just because they looked ugly. Now that they were whipped by Heshi with internal force, they screamed abruptly and fell to the ground. Heshi didn't dare to stay for a while. Regardless of the surge in the body, she channeled her remaining spiritual power and quickly flew toward the rank 4 magical beast area. This was her only chance and the only chance. Feng Lianying's hysterical scream came from behind her ears. "Liao Qingfu, you piece of shit. I let you torture and play with her. If you let her run away, I want you all to die." The rank 4 magical beast area was in front of her. Heshi was suffering the torments of hell inside her. Her vision was blurred, but there was still hope in her eyes. Just a little bit. It is just a little bit. However, there was a loud bang in the ear, Then a severe pain came from behind her head. Heshi didn't even have 10% of her power and agility now. Before she could react to it, she was smashed to the ground. She spat a mouthful of blood. Her internal organs were so painful as if they were being stirred. However, after the pain, there was the heat wave of lust that was even harder to resist. She heard Mr. Liao's proud laugh in her ears. "Baby, do you think you can escape my palm? Ah, no one has ever escaped after falling into my hand. However, for such a masterpiece like you, I promise to let you enjoy before killing you." Heshi closed her eyes, her heart full of despair and sadness. But what Heshi didn't find was that the blood she spat splashed onto the inscribed jade slip on her chest. There was a light silver like it was breathing on the inscribed jade slip. Mr. Liao and his disciple walked toward Heshi. He held something like an iron rod in his hand, tapped his palm gently, and sneered, "Why are you not running now? You can try again. Let's see if you can escape from me." Heshi looked at him coldly. Her body was obviously very fragile after being influenced by the lust fire, but those eyes were like cold swords, making those who saw them trembled felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Mr. Liao's brows frowned, and a bit of uneasiness surged in his heart. Suddenly, he spoke to his disciple faintly, "This girl has a little temperament. If she keeps messing around, wouldn't we not be able to enjoy it? You all go tie up her hands and legs. If she dares to resist, just cut off all her tendons and hamstrings. Miss Feng just wants to see us play with her white jade-like body. I think Miss Feng won't bother whether she becomes cripple." Feng Lianying laughed immediately when she heard it. "Mr. Liao, the worse you torture her, the happier I will be." At this moment she was channeling the recording talisman. Looking at Heshi, who was about to fall into a miserable state, she just excitedly wanted to laugh loudly. Mr. Liao's disciple listened to the command and pushed toward Heshi. Heshi's vision was blurred at this time. The sound in her ears became a noisy and distant echo. The only feeling in her whole body was the burning desire. A man with a pimple face tried to approach her and grab her hand. Heshi snorted, "Go away." The invisible needle in her hand shot out. However, her voice had already become hoarse. There was no deterrence at all. It seemed to be the most seductive flirt instead. The man with a pimple face avoided the invisible needle. He was first stunned, then he made a hoarse and excited laughter. Everyone catches her. The voodoo in this girl's body is activated. The concealed weapon she launched was powerless. The men in black heard the words and pounced at Heshi with excitement. Heshi stumbled and dodged the man wobbly, but there was a tearing pain on her left shoulder suddenly. Immediately after tearing, half of her clothes were torn open, exposing the white shoulder and the vicious whip mark. Her initially weak body was also severely knocked to the ground. It turned out that Mr. Liao had already retrieved the whip that Heshi took away. At this moment, he was waving the whip with a disgusting grin on his face. When several disciples of Mr. Liao saw Heshi fell, they rushed over to hold her hands and feet. The beautiful and unparalleled looks of the girls were observed at close range. These people took a deep breath, but they only felt a shortness of breath. Their eyes looked straight. They couldn't help drooling. Mr. Liao had ripped off his clothes and shouted, "Baby, don't worry, wait for Grandpa to tear off all your clothes and leave beautiful whip marks on you, then I can pamper you properly." As he spoke, his black whip was raised high. The weird laughter together with the tremble of excitement made the others feel chill by just listening to it. However, the moment the black whip was about to fall again, suddenly, a dazzling light lit from Heshi's neck. The dark red light immediately shrouded the clouds over Breaking Spirit Mountain. There was a strong wind abruptly, dust flew in the sky, the cloud was rolling. Immediately after that, the dark red light strangely ripped a crack in the sky, exposing a black hole in the bowl size. In the wind, everyone was blown upside down. Even if they used spiritual shield, it still seemed they were going to be cut into pieces by the wind and sand. Someone shouted in panic, "What is happening?" As soon as the words were out, there was a tall figure appearing in the crack. The figure was slowly falling from the sky. The dark red halo shrouded his whole body, making it difficult to see his appearance, but the terrifying vibe from his body made everyone stiff and trembled. Finally, the figure landed on the ground, the winds receded, and the dark red light gradually disappeared without a trace. Mr. Liao held himself up with the iron rod in his hand. He could finally see what was happening only at this moment. However, when he saw the person's face, he shuddered instantly and made a terrifying exclamation, "The King of Hell! How could the King of Hell appear here?" The man in front of him had long black hair and a picturesque eyebrow. The golden sunset setting on his face reflected the handsome face that made countless young girls crazy. Holding the black long sword in his hand, he stood there quietly. His clothes were fluttering gently. There was no sorrow or joy in his eyes, but it seemed that he could destroy everything in front of him by just moving his eyes slightly. The King of Hell? Nan Gongyu, why is he here? Without entering the inscribed teleportation jade slip of Breaking Spirit Mountain, how can he appear here? The King of Hell, what does he want to do? The fear and horror like the end of the world spread in everyone's heart. All of them remembered what Ice Lotus Fairy had just said. Shiyu seduced Nan Gongyu. The King of Hell, Nan Gongyu liked and even obsessed with Shiyu. What about Shiyu? Now that Shiyu was tortured by them, as soon as Nan Gongyu landed on the ground, he didn't even look at these people. He first looked at Heshi. However, just a glance made his eyes suddenly red. He could hardly conceal the murderous intentions from his body. Nan Gongyu landed next to Heshi and hugged her. The girl's face was so pale, but her cheeks were abnormally crimson. The corners of his mouth had some dried blood stain, and the scar on her lips that was bitten deeply. Her breath was so weak, and the clothes on her shoulders and arms were torn, revealing her white skin and the ugly whip mark. Moreover, her spiritual power and breathing became obscured, and her body unnaturally twisted and had a fever. She closed her eyes with a face full of pain and despair. Nan Gongyu carefully held her in his arms. Her hot body temperature was like a soldering iron on his palm. Even when he was burned by the spiritual fire, it was not so painful. The pain permeated into his heart and into his bone. He carefully put her in his arms to take care of her. He couldn't bear to hurt this little girl. He was reluctant to leave her, but he was willing to stay away just to protect his girl. However, she was injured to such extent now. Besides, when he thought that if he was one step later, what would these bastards do to Shiyu? Nan Gongyu's heart was filled with killing intentions that were enough to destroy the world. He put the unconscious Heshi in his embrace with one hand, then he slowly stood up. The cold, bloodthirsty eyes glanced over Mr. Liao and several of his disciples. Mr. Liao held the iron rod tightly in his hands. He was shouting in a tremble as he backed up, Forgive me, Your Royal Highness King of Hell. It's not me. I didn't want to do it. It's Feng Lianing. She asked me to deal with Miss Shiyu. It's none of my business. It's really none of my business. Before Mr. Liao's words were finished, Nan Gongyu's sword sliced through gently. It was just a simple slash, and Mr. Liao was still shaking as he was begging for mercy. Without realizing what had happened, he saw his right hand that was holding the iron rod flew away. Ah! Mr. Liao screamed painfully afterward. His body slammed to the ground, and he crawled out to escape. A second strike sliced through gently. Mr. Liao only felt a pain in his left leg, then he lost his left leg's sense again. His face was full of snots and tears, and his mouth just kept crying, It wasn't me, it really wasn't me. It was Feng Lianing who made me do it. King of Hell, please forgive me. Please be mercy. The third strike swept through, but this time it was Mr. Liao's left hand and right foot flew out together. Mr. Liao could no longer cry at this time. The blood on his four limbs kept spitting out. Nan Gongyu seemed to feel that it was not enough. The corner of his mouth even evoked an evil sneer. Relax, I will keep your life. When Shiyu wakes up, she will want to torture you personally. If you die so simply, maybe Shiyu will be angry with me instead. But Nan Gongyu's eyes looked at Heshi's torn clothes and he whispered softly, You dare to touch Xier. You actually dare to touch Xier. How would it be enough to just cut off your four limbs? Nangong Yu's voice has become violent and crazy in the later section of the sentence. As soon as he spoke, there was a watermelon-sized stone not far away suddenly flying into the air, then it dropped straight down at Mr. Liao's crotch. All of a sudden, flesh and blood splashed, his pelvic bone shattered, and a crunching sound could be heard. Mr. Liao was already out of breath. This blow made him scream out of despair again, then he eventually passed out. Nangong Yu picked up Mr. Liao before his eyes slowly fell on the men in black who had been desperately running away. These men were nearly crawling and rolling at this time. They were running toward the place where Feng Lianying and Lu Lisec's disciples were at. As they rolled, they cried and shouted, "Ice Lotus Fairy, Miss Feng, help! Save us!" Someone also begged for mercy from Nangong Yu. "Master King of Hell, we are only executing the Master's order. We haven't touched Miss Shiyu, we really haven't." Wu, Nangong Yu hugged Heshi in one hand while holding a sword in another hand, walking slowly toward the crowd. His posture seemed to be walking in the courtyard. There wasn't any fluctuation in spiritual power, but wherever his cold gaze looked at, it made everyone trembled with fear. Feng Lianying had been watching him obsessively since the appearance of Nangong Yu. At this time, watching him come holding Heshi, she could not help crying, "Brother Yu, are you going to kill me? I do all this because I love you. I have been with you for so many years. I always thought that I would be your wife. If it weren't for Shiyu, you would be my husband. You would love me. Brother Yu, she is just a low-life woman. It doesn't do you any good to marry her. Only me are worthy of you." Nangong Yu raised his head, looked at her, and sneered, "Are you done?" Feng Lianying shuddered at his cold, red, bloodthirsty eyes, but her voice became more hysterically, "Brother Yu, are you really going to kill me for this bitch? I am the young master of Lu Li sect, miss of the Feng family. My father is even your life-saving person. You want to kill me just for such a shameless slut? Brother Yu, are you not afraid that the Feng family will trouble you? What's more, this bitch woman has just been insulted just now. She was born to be a bitch. She was very enthusiastic to Mr. Liao and those men. Her body has already been occupied. For such a shameless woman, Brother Yu, why are you?" Before Feng Lianying's words were finished, Nangong Yu waved his sword gently. A light and ingenious sword strike, but it could shake the earth and bring a strong wind. The horrible dark coercion shrouded everyone. Under the sword strike, Feng Lianying and her fellow disciples vomited blood. Afterward, there was another sword slashed through their body and face relentlessly. Feng Lianying's clothes were cut by the slash, and her body kept having hideous wounds. The appearance of those wounds was very similar to the lash on Heshi's body. Feng Lianying screamed in horror. She desperately covered her face. She kept shouting, "Nangong Yu, you can't do this to me. I do this all for you. It's all for you." As soon as Nangong Yu's sword net was closed, the world restored to its original state in an instant. The place where the sword net disappeared, there were torn clothes and scarred on it. Feng Lianying thought that Nangong Yu was touched by her, and there was delighted tears on her face. As she was trying to say something, she heard Nangong Yu spoke slowly, "Since it's all for me, then you die for me." He was a cruel, bloodthirsty, ruthless king of hell. He was never a romantic man. All his feelings and persistence had been given to the only woman whom he loved. Those who hurt her should be dead for 10,000 times. The delight on Feng Lianying's face suddenly turned into horror. She stumbled and fell to the ground. Lu Lisec's disciple and the faces of the men in black showed a look of fear and despair. Seeing Nangong Yu's sword lifted again, the savage murderous intention was like the death's scythe hung above their heads. It would fall at any time. Suddenly, the girl in Nangong Yu's arms groaned in pain. The hoarse voice with a soft, fragile, and hopeful tone sounded in his ears faintly, "Nangong Yu, Nangong Yu, I'm so uncomfortable." The monstrous murderous intentions suddenly disappeared. Nangong Yu threw away the flying sword almost clumsily, holding the girl in his arms tightly with both hands. Feng Lianying and others suddenly escaped from death. All of them were astounded. Their faces were filled with fear after escaping death. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Hurry up, run!" In the blink of an eye, everyone took out their flying swords and magic weapons, and they were about to flee like a loser. Nangong Yu raised his head. A cold and violent smile revealed from the corner of his mouth. He said softly, "You hurt Xier, and you thought you could run away safely?" As soon as the words were out, the martial artist who had flown into the sky fell down abruptly. They didn't even know what happened, then they fell on the ground and lost their consciousness. Want to escape? Stop dreaming. I can deal with them bit by bit slowly later. After Nangong Yu made everyone fainted to make sure that they couldn't run away in a short time, then he focused his attention on Heshi completely. At this point, Heshi had completely lost her mind. All his consciousness was concentrated in the burning lust in her body. She was completely desperate initially, and she intended to desperately end her life with Mr. Liao. However, at the very moment, she suddenly felt a huge spiritual pressure appearing, then she was embraced into a familiar and warm embrace. The person holding her was so careful, it was full of distress and pity. Even the way he stroked her face was so familiar for her. Heshi opened her eyes in a daze and saw Nangong Yu's unparalleled handsome face. He thought she was dreaming, but he couldn't help murmuring her name softly. Nangong Yu carefully hugged her and sat down on his knees, trying to check the injuries at her shoulders and arms. However, when Nangong Yu's warm fingertips just touched the silky skin, Heshi could not help but utter a soft moan. The desire in the body burned 100 times stronger, erasing her only last bit of reasoning and consciousness completely. Heshi frowned. She tore her clothes, and her body was involuntarily approaching Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu took a breath, and he was stiff there. The girl in her arms had messy hair and clothes, and her collar was opened, revealing her delicate skin that was whiter than lamb's white jade. The sweet peach color stained the girl's lip color, and it brought up with an enchanting fragrance and charm. The pink lips were bitten by the white teeth, and the little lilac tongue was exposed between the moans. The girl's body seemed to exude a faint fragrance which was like the strongest filter, making Nangong Yu losing his mind bit by bit. The fiery eyes moved along the pink lips, passing the arc-shaped perfect jaw, and landed on the slender neck and delicate clavicle. The lines of the clavicle were so sexy and beautiful. The lines faintly extended down to the open collar. The slight undulation of the round object in the placket dazzled Nangong Yu's eyes. He couldn't help but have a dry mouth, and he was breathing rapidly. However, Heshi didn't know that Nangong Yu's struggle was so tormenting. She just felt uncomfortable. Fires were igniting in her body, but when her little hand touched Nangong Yu's face, she felt as if there was a coolness flowing into her body and mind from her fingertips which made her couldn't help herself from moaning comfortably. But it was not enough at all. Heshi's hand slowly moved down. She eagerly peeled off Nangong Yu's collar, wanting to get more coolness to relieve the burn that almost tortured her to death. Nangong Yu's eyes were red, and he stared directly at the blurred Heshi. Finally, he couldn't help but clasp Heshi's small hand, and lowered his head, and kissed her lips. This kiss was no longer as gentle and ambiguous as before, but it attacked like a storm of aggression. Heshi just faintly felt that her body was almost going to be buried in that hot embrace. The stormy deep kiss made her unable to breathe as if she was about to be swallowed in. Nangong Yu's hand pressed tightly to Heshi's soft back, pressing her against himself and making her unable to escape. Then, the hot palm kneaded the slim waist, and it extended into her clothes again. Sheer, the rough voice could no longer keep his mind. He wanted her. He frantically wanted to possess her and aggressively invade her, making her his woman completely. Nangong Yu extended his hand with red eyes as he was going to tear off the obstructing clothes on the girl. Suddenly, he touched a warm object with his fingertips. That was an inscribed jade slip. That was the inscribed jade slip that tore through the space and summoned him. There was still Heshi's blood on the inscribed jade slee. Nangong Yu only felt as if there was cold water pouring down his head, calming down the lust elicited in his body. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped his face ruthlessly. A low-pitched voice with a strong heartache and guilt, "What the hell am I doing?" Yes, what was he doing exactly? Knowing that Sheer was drugged, knowing that she was seriously injured, and her breath and spiritual power were weak. How can I take advantage of someone and want to occupy her in this way? Nangong Yu wanted Heshi very much to the extent that he almost went crazy, but he wouldn't do it in this way absolutely. Having an outdoor sex was an insult to Shi. He would make Heshi his own, but he would marry her in a decent way and make her his legitimate wife. Instead of taking advantage of her unconscious state while disregarding her safety and will. Nangong Yu took a deep breath, condensed a cold ice water, and poured it on himself ruthlessly. Only then it cooled down the aroused desire completely. He hugged Heshi, who was struggling, and released his spiritual power into her, trying to know what poison she got. Although Nangong Yu did not have a doctor grade, he had been sick for a long time. Although he did not have superb medical skills, he still had some understanding of various strange poisons. However, when spiritual power got into the body and felt the weird little bug in Heshi's veins, Nangong Yu's pupil shrank suddenly. Voodoo. She wasn't drugged, instead she is cursed by voodoo. Feng Lianying, this vicious woman, dares to treat Sheer like this. Nangong Yu took a deep breath again, suppressing the violent and destructive killing intention. He raised his hand to gather a cloud of spiritual power in his palm. If at this time someone could see the spiritual power condensed by Nangong Yu, they would scream out of shock. Because the spiritual power turned out to be pure black like a thick cloud. It was slowly hovering in the palm of Nangong Yu, looking extremely horrible and strange. As soon as this cloud of spiritual power appeared, the offspring voodoo that was originally lurking in the heart of Heshi was agitated. As if it was terribly afraid of this back spiritual power, but it was eagerly and involuntarily approaching. The dark spiritual power was unique in the Miluo continent. The legend about this power was even rare. This unique spiritual power was the favorite of all dark flora and fauna and bugs. But at the same time, voodoo insect was extremely afraid of this dark power because the voodoo insect that survived by devouring other insects could instinctively realize the horror of this dark spiritual power that would devour them. Yes, the most terrible thing about the dark spiritual power was that it could devour all dark creatures that were a lower class than the power and transform them into one's own cultivation. The dark power in Nangong Yu's hands carefully entered Heshi's body. The offspring voodoo couldn't bear it anymore. It finally came out of Heshi's body, trying to escape. However, Nangong Yu's action was extremely fast. He took out a palm-sized jade box instantly and contained the offspring voodoo, which was almost invisible to the naked eye in the box. Without the torture of offspring voodoo, Heshi's expressions soon ceased to be painful and tormented, and her complexion slowly returned to normal. Nangong Yu carefully placed the sleepy Heshi on the soft lawn before slowly standing up. His gaze focused on the jade box containing offspring voodoo. When he opened the jade box, a dark red bug inside shivering in fear. Love-devouring voodoo. It turns out to be love-devouring voodoo. Nangong Yu's eyes flashed with murderous intent. His handsome face was as horrible as Ashura. He didn't expect that the poison he hated the most, the poison that had killed his mother, was now planted in Sheer. If it weren't for the pair of mother love-devouring voodoo's level was still very low, Sheer would probably be dead under the torment of the voodoo before he could come to help her. As soon as he thought of the possibility of losing Heshi, Nangong Yu's hand holding the jade box trembled. He slowly walked toward Feng Lianying and Ye Jinshin, who were unconscious. The icy spiritual power dropped and poured on Feng Lianying and Ye Jinshin. Feng Lianying trembled, moaned, and opened her eyes slowly. Ye Jinshin also woke up quietly. He saw Nangong Yu, and he quickly spoke in a tremble. Nangong, listen to me. I really didn't. Brother Yu. Feng Lianying was trembling as she wanted to say something. Nangong Yu interrupted them coldly. Where did you get this love-devouring voodoo? Feng Lianying was stiff, and she looked ugly. Love-devouring voodoo is taken out by Nangong Yu. Isn't it mean that that bitch is fine now? She is no longer under my control? Nangong Yu saw that neither of them spoke, then he hit their dantian with his spiritual power. Suddenly, Feng Lianying and Ye Jinshan both made a howl like a pig being slaughtered. Ye Jinshan lay on the ground, clutching Nangong Yu's robe corner, crying and begging, "Nangong, no! King of Hell, let me go!" Love-devouring voodoo was found by Feng Lianying. "It's not related to me." Nangong Yu's eyes looked at Feng Lianying. Feng Lianying stared at Nye Jinshan fiercely, trying to say something to plead with Nangong Yu. When she saw Nangong Yu condense the cloud of second spiritual power, she turned pale and quickly screamed, "It's my master! It's my master who specially gave it to me to deal with Shiyu." "Your master? Thousand Poison Valley's master?" Feng Lianying replied without hesitation. "My master loves me most. He will not let anyone who hurts me live. Brother Yu, I know you will get sick every year. As long as my master is willing to help, you will definitely be cured. Brother Yu, you have to know how to choose is the best for you." Nangong Yu sneered and slowly said, "What about Mother Voodoo?" "Why? What Mother Voodoo?" Seeing Feng Lianying's eyes flickered, Nangong Yu didn't speak with her anymore. He suddenly took out a small fabric-woven bag from Feng Lianying. The bag had a strong spirit. After opening the bag, a small red bug crawled to Nangong Yu's hand. Feng Lianying's eyes widened in horror. When she saw even the Mother Voodoo didn't dare to cause trouble in Nangong Yu's hands, her voice trembled. "You, what do you want to do?" "Love-devouring voodoo is cultivated specifically by my master. Only I can use it, even if you take it?" "Only you can use it?" Nangong Yu sneered. "Since you like love-devouring voodoo so much, why don't you taste it yourself?" After speaking, under the horrified gaze and scream of Feng Lianying, Nangong Yu flicked his fingertips and the offspring voodoo flew into Feng Lianying's body at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Feng Lianying was stiff at first, and her eyes were filled with terror and despair. Immediately afterward, her face became flushed. She kept moaning, and she started to tear off her clothes like crazy. Feng Lianying's clothes had been cut to pieces when she was hit by Nangong Yu's sword strike net. Now that she ripped it, her body was naked quickly. Feng Lianying's eyes were blurred. When she saw Nangong Yu's figure, she rushed toward him. Brother Yu, I want you. I'll give myself to you." Nangong Yu kicked her away, then he looked at Nye Jinshan with the gaze that was colder than the devil. "Do you not want such a good opportunity?" Nye Jinshan stared intently at Nangong Yu who kicked Feng Lianying away, but she did not know the pain. She still moaned like a bitch as she was rolling on the ground. Her chest was undulating, and her eyes were full of lust. The next moment he rushed out, pounced on Feng Lianying, and pressed her under him. The miss of the Feng family, who treated him like a dog and looked down on him previously, was now moaning shamelessly underneath him. She even wrapped her legs around Nye Jinshan and kept rubbing her body against him. Under the torture of love-devouring voodoo, the lofty ice lotus fairy was nothing more than a woman who let him play at will. Nye Jinshan growled, ripped off his clothes, and completely owned Feng Lianying. After Nangong Yu said that to Nye Jinshan, he turned and left. He wasn't interested in seeing the faces and behavior of the two people, and he didn't want Sheer to stay in this dirty place. However, after taking a few steps while holding Heshi, Nangong Yu took out the Mother Voodoo, and there was a faint sneer on his mouth. Things are not over yet. Didn't Feng Lianying find so many people to bully Heshi? Then I will keep those people. I believe that when Nye Jinshan cannot satisfy Feng Lianying, those few scums who wanted to humiliate Sheer will definitely come in handy. However, Nye Jinshan is a gold core stage, so he isn't afraid of letting his spirit being sucked by the offspring voodoo. Those who are only at the foundation establishment stage and meridian stage, I don't know if they will be sucked by offspring voodoo into an empty dry shell. Of course, I will definitely satisfy Feng Lianying's wish to use the recording talisman. Nangong Yu spat out black gas on Mother Voodoo, then he kept the Mother Voodoo and quickly left with Heshi. Heshi woke up slowly in the warm spiritual power. The pain in her dantian and 5 internal organs was soothed under the slightly cool spiritual power. It became extremely comfortable as if she was soaked in the hot spring. Heshi slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was Nangong Yu's pale face. Seeing her waking up, Nangong Yu's eyes were beaming with joy. Her hand that originally held her suddenly tightened. Heshi's memory was disrupted, and she almost thought she was seeing hallucinations. Then she slowly recovered her memories. Those painful and desperate scenes that made her powerless came into her mind. She even planned to sacrifice herself to die with the enemies. However, she was really unwilling to let Feng Lianying, the main culprit, escape. But all of a sudden, Nangong Yu appeared. Without any sign, he appeared from the sky like an immortal god or demon, saving her out of this abyss of despair. "Sheer, how do you feel?" When Nangong Yu saw her staring at him silently, he thought she felt painful, so he could not help showing anxiety on his face. "Do you still feel pain?" "Nangong Yu," Heshi said softly. Her voice was hoarse and trembling. "Is it really you?" "It's me." Nangong Yu hugged her, bowed his head and kissed her forehead gently. "Sheer, it's me." Heshi froze for a moment. She suddenly hugged his waist, burying her face in his arms. Her body was shaking slightly. Nangong Yu felt ecstatic when Heshi took the initiative to hug him. This was the first time Sheer being intimate to him. However, after feeling the coldness and trembling of the girl's body, all the joys were replaced by heartache and guilt. "Sheer, don't be afraid, I'm here. No one can bully you with me." Heshi just hugged him tightly and didn't speak for a long while. The girl's body was soft and fragrant. Nangong Yu felt her body curve that was clinging onto him tightly. He felt aroused for a moment. However, he took a deep breath and suppressed the turbulent tide of desire. "Nangong Yu," the low voice brought a girl-like grievance and coquettishness. It was soft and cute. It was like a feather ticking his heart. "I thought I would never see you again." Nangong Yu held her tightly in her arms and said softly, "Sheer, I said that you are my wife. You are destined to stay with me in this life. Even if you arrive the end of the earth or the hell, I will surely chase you back and take you back to me. Therefore you will see me forever." Heshi's petite body trembled slightly in his arms, and it took a long time to slowly release him. The small face was still calm, but those beautiful phoenix eyes were slightly red as if she had just cried. Heshi, whom Nangong Yu knew, had always been calm and proud. Even if she was drenched in blood, she would never cry. But this time, she even cried. For a time, Nangong Yu felt only the inexplicable killing intent and violence circling in his mind. There was more pity that made his heart tightened. He lowered his head and kissed the girl's dark hair, warm cheeks, and finally stamped on the pink lips. Unlike in the past, Heshi did not struggle again this time, but she held Nangong Yu's neck and accepted his kiss. Nangong Yu's pupils shrunk slightly. His eyes was flashing with incredible ecstasy and excitement. He pressed the girl's back with one hand and pressed her firmly against him. Their kiss became passionate and aggressive. Heshi instinctively wanted to escape, but how would Nangong Yu give her the chance? He hooked her fragrant tongue and sucked sweet liquid from her mouth, making every inch of her breath have his taste. Heshi was in a daze being kissed. She only felt that her body was hot, and her thought was full of the reddish handsome face of Nangong Yu, and the way he descended from the sky and rescued her from the abyss of hell. Whether she wanted to admit it or not, this man had invaded Heshi's closed heart with an overbearing attitude and gentle pampering. If she doesn't see him, she will miss him often. She would be worried if she knew that he was doing something dangerous. She would be jealous and angry to see him standing with Feng Lianying. When she thought of despair, the person she thought was still him. Nangong Yu, can I really believe this person? Can I really open my heart to love this person? Heshi thought for a moment, then there was a sudden glance of determination in her eyes. Since she really had feelings for Nangong Yu, then why did she have to worry so much? This was never her character, right? If one day Nangong Yu betrayed her, then she would castrate him to vent her hatred. Thinking of this, Heshi no longer hesitated. She hugged Nangong Yu tightly and indulged in his stormy passion. For a long time, the lips were separated. Nangong Yu's eyebrows were sweet and tender. He gently stroked Heshi's soft hair and whispered, "Sheer, are you willing to marry me and be my wife?" Heshi raised her eyebrows at him. Her eyes were full of cunning expression. It's not easy to marry me. My possessiveness is very strong. I will not allow my husband to have any kind of ambiguous relationship with any other woman. I will never allow polygamy. If I find out my man betraying me, I will probably castrate that scum. Nan Gongyu scratched the tip of her nose and chuckled, "Bad girl, I never had any woman before meeting you. There will only be one queen in the future, and I will never look at other women anymore. Is this okay?" Hashi flickered her eyes. She lowered her head and grabbed his slender fingers to play gently, but she said coquettishly, "Okay, now you're in the inspection period. I allow you to be the boyfriend of Nalan Hashi." Nan Gongyu's fingers looked very nice. They were fair and slender, and the joints were clear, making her feel inexplicably secure. Boyfriend? Hashi's cheeks were reddish. She coughed lightly, then she turned her eyes to the other side. That is, the relationship before the marriage. Seeing Nan Gongyu looking at her in a shock, Hashi's ears became hot. She pretended to be angry. "Why, you don't want to? Even if you don't want to, it is my first time to have a boyfriend." Before she could finish, Nan Gongyu blocked her red lips. It took a long time for him to release the girl whose cheeks could drip red water. Then he got close to her ears and said in an undertone, "As long as it's Shear's command, your husband will always listen." Hashi's face was redder. She glared at him fiercely, then she thought of something. The blush on Hashi's face suddenly faded, and her eyes became colder than the ice sword. "One more thing I'll tell you right now. No matter what your relationship with the Feng family is, and whether the Feng family has done you a favor, but I will never let the Feng family go. The shame they have done to me today, I will make them pay back for 1,000,000 times." Hashi's eyes stared coldly at Nan Gongyu. She thought Nan Gongyu would frown and would be put into a difficult situation. Who knows that Nan Gongyu's face showed a pampering smile. He said after a while, "Shear, rest assured, Lu Li sect and Feng family will soon disappear. Anyone who tries to hurt Shear man, I will never let go." Nan Gongyu's words made Hashi startled. She didn't understand what Nan Gongyu's words meant. What does he mean by Lu Li sect and Feng family will soon disappear? She wanted to ask more, but Nan Gongyu suddenly showed a weird smile. He said faintly, "Shear, don't you want to see the end of the people who just hurt you?" After Nan Gongyu finished speaking, he took out an inscribed jade slip with weird shape in his hand and gently injected his divine sense and spiritual power into it. Hashi was stunned. She knew this inscribed jade slip, and no one in Miluo continent did not know it. This was the identification and traction inscribed jade slip of entering the boundless black market, virtual space. With it, anyone could look up goods, purchase magic weapons, and even participate in virtual space auctions. But why Nan Gongyu wants to enter the black market now? Inscribed jade slip was activated, and Nan Gongyu and Hashi soon appeared in a virtual space. Before Hashi had time to ask questions, she listened Nan Gongyu smiling slightly. On the boundless black market, there are often people who sell strange things, such as video recording talisman. Because of the scarcity of recording talisman, the videos on the black market are often bought and viewed by many people. If the videos are shown to thousands of martial artists, and they are played in real time, then it is even more fascinating and popular. What's more, the price I set for this video is exceptionally low. It is only 10 yuan crystals. I believe that today there must be thousands of people who buy and watch. Hashi wanted to ask what kind of video it was, then she saw a light shone in the virtual space of black market. It was followed by a familiar scene. In the messy valley, the sun had set, but in the light of moonlight and stars, everything still looked very clear. Hashi's eyes widened slightly. She was astounded as she looked at the bodies entangling each other's and the men and women who moaned from time to time on the screen. Even though the woman's jade body was tangled with another body at this time, her hair was disheveled, her face was sweaty and looked confused. It was completely different from her usual superior look, but Hashi recognized the person at a glance. Isn't this Feng Lianying? And the person tangled with her is Nye Jinshin? But this was not the most startling part. The most shocking thing was that Mr. Liao's 7 extremely ugly disciples were all undressed at this time. They were surrounding Feng Lianying with a fascinated look. Some people caressed her skin, some people bit her jade arm, someone kept rubbing against her, showing an expression of enjoyment. This scene was really inscrutable and disgusting. Nangong Yu originally pulled out this video in order to vent Heshi's anger, but when he saw the scene, his face suddenly turned gloomy. He exited from the boundless black market immediately. He pulled the girl closer to her arms and covered her face fiercely. "Don't watch." Nangong Yu felt that he was really out of his mind. He just wanted to stick up for Heshi. Why didn't he realize that the scene was so unsightly, it almost polluted Shier's eyes? The most important thing was that the men were naked shamelessly. How could he let Shier see it? Even if he wants her to watch, she can only watch his. At this time, Nangong Yu was annoyed that he wanted to delete the live broadcast in the black market. Heshi laughed in his arms. He grabbed his big hands, and there was amusement at the corners of her eyebrows. "Nangong Yu, you are doing this to stick up for me?" Nangong Yu sneered. "Isn't Feng Lianying want your reputation to be ruined? Then I will fulfill her wish." The number of purchases of this video has exceeded 10 million. I believe that the entire Miluo continent today will know what kind of person the Miss of the Feng family is. Heshi hesitated for a moment. She had always been alone. She would get her revenge on her own. She would deal with her business on her own. But now, for the first time, she felt dependent on someone and being cared for, but it was so sweet and soothing. As Heshi was about to say something, a pink pig suddenly appeared out of nowhere and landed between Heshi and Nangong Yu. Little Egg rubbed his eyes and looked around, then he suddenly woke up and pounced into Heshi's arms and cried, "Woo Mom, are you okay?" "Little Egg always knows that you were in danger during my sleep, but I just couldn't wake up." Little Egg was worried and anxious, but fortunately, Dad arrived. Heshi touched his little head and said softly, "Little Egg, don't worry. Mom is fine now." She knew that this little one exhausted his spiritual power in order to heal the little dumb cow and fell into a coma. Heshi was happy now that he could wake up safely. But wait, what the hell is Dad? She saw Little Egg turn around and looked at Nangong Yu timidly, then he screamed with a soft child voice, "Dad!" Nangong Yu's cold eyes showed a hint of warmth, and he nodded, "Come here." Little Egg turned to look at the astounded Heshi, then he stepped with his short legs and ran to Nangong Yu clumsily. Nangong Yu took out a lotus-shaped jade, threw it to Little Egg and said, "Giving you a present." Little Egg grabbed the lotus-shaped jade, and he was suddenly overjoyed. The peculiar spiritual power inside was thick and pure, and it was mixed with a flavor of magic energy. Whether it was for Nyo Nyo Little Dragon or Aunt Little Purple, it was the best supplement. Little Egg quickly put the lotus-shaped jade into the void. His eyes that were watching Nangong Yu were full of worship and kindness. He grabbed his clothes and said, "Dad, you are so good. Those bad guys were defeated easily under your hand." But he seemed to think of something again. Little Egg immediately became weeping. "But Dad, it would be nice if you come early. That way Mom would not be bullied by that bad guy." That bad guy took off Mom's clothes, and he still wanted to humiliate Mom. Little Dragon and Auntie Little Purple were also injured. "Ooh, if Dad were there, you can definitely protect your mother." When Nangong Yu heard that, his face suddenly turned gloomy. The pair of beautiful eyes became dull like a storm condensing into a whirlpool. "Little Egg knows." Little Egg immediately raised his little paw, clenched into fist, and shook it fiercely in the air. "My mother called him Feng Yunjing, and he asked Mom to marry him and become the Miss of the Feng family. Mom wasn't willing, so he wanted to force Mom. That old and ugly shameless man, he doesn't even match Dad's shoes. How can he covet Mom?" Nangong Yu looked at Heshi with a somber and cold look. That chilling anger and murderous intention made Heshi shiver. He stretched out his hand, then Heshi shuddered and she was pulled into his arms. He hugged her tightly. "Feng Yunjing, where did he touch you?" Nangong Yu's voice was filled with the murderous intention that could pierce into the bone and jealousy. "Shier, you are mine. Anyone who covets you should be damned. Why didn't you ask me for help earlier?" Heshi shivered under his cold gaze, then she immediately returned to her senses. She said furiously, "How do I know that the inscribed jade slip is used to summon you? Wu Xing just told me to let me bring this inscribed jade slip with me. If there is a danger, it can save my life. I don't know how to use this inscribed jade slip, let alone summoning you." Nangong Yu frowned, and he was extremely dissatisfied with Wu Xing. He knew what Wu Xing was worrying about, but it was because of Wu Xing's worry that Sheer almost suffered irreparable harm. Maybe he should let them know the position of Sheer in his mind. Wu Xing, who was recovering from his injuries in the Tsang Mountain, shuddered. He looked around suspiciously without finding any peculiar. He was totally unaware that his master had marked down one demerit on him. Under Heshi's explanation, Nangong Yu's complexion eased. However, he held Heshi's hand tighter. "Sheer, I will never let Feng Yunjing go. Since he dared to touch you, then he should prepare to suffer a living hell." Heshi was stunned. She had the same cold expression on her face. "Nangong Yu, if you want to revenge on the Feng family, count me in." If she didn't return the pain and humiliation that the Feng family's people added to her, she would not be Heshi. Nangong Yu frowned as he remembered the plot hidden behind the Feng family, and he wanted to refuse. He didn't want Sheer to be in any danger. However, seeing the persistence under Heshi's eyes, Nangong Yu still sighed, lowered his head and kissed her gently. "Well, let's go together." Heshi breathed a sigh of relief. However, when she thought of the name that Little Egg addressed just now, her eyes suddenly squinted with a hint of warning. "Little Egg, why do you call him Dad?" Little Egg tilted his head blankly, and he said childishly, "Dad taught me. He asked you to do it, then you have to follow? Do you still have a little vigilance? Besides, weren't you calling pretty brother happily in the beginning?" Nangong Yu leaned closer to Heshi's ear and whispered, "I haven't asked Sheer yet, pretty brother? It seems that Sheer really likes my looks. I'm really honored." "Damn you." Heshi pushed him away and laughed. "What, Dad? You don't take advantage of our little egg." Nangong Yu squeezed her upright nose and said seriously, "I'm just trying to get used to the feeling of being called as Dad. After Sheer marries me and gives birth to a child for him, I will know how to take care of our baby." "Bullshit. Who is going to give you a baby?" Heshi patted his hand away, her face flushed. As she was about to say something, she suddenly saw Nangong Yu's pale face suddenly became paler. Heshi panicked, grabbed Nangong Yu's hand, and said, "Nangong Yu, what's wrong with you? Was it hurt?" "I'm fine." Nangong Yu waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. It's just the sequelae for tearing through space." Heshi quickly took out 9th secluded spirit spring and fed it to Nangong Yu, but she was a little confused. Tearing through space? She remembered that almost no one in Miluo continent could do that, right? And now that he was being governed by the rules of the Breaking Spirit Mountain. Even if he was an advanced-level nascent soul stage powerhouse, it was impossible for him to enter without the inscribed teleportation jade slip. How did Nangong Yu come here? Thinking of this, Heshi's face showed an anxious look. Did you use any secret method? So you have to pay a heavy price to appear here?" Nangong Yu lifted her worried eyebrows. In those clear and beautiful eyes, all the reflections were his own shadow. He couldn't help lowering his head and softly kissed on those eyes before he said softly, "Sheer, rest assured, your man is not so weak. Although tearing through space has to pay a little price, it's just a minor problem for me. It's just that this is just my clone, and it will soon dissipate into fundamental essence and merge with the original body." Clone. Heshi was even more surprised, and she suddenly felt that the Nangong Yu in front of her was full of mystery. Miluo continent's martial artists can cultivate clones, but most clones can only support the user and confuse the enemy. Like Nangong Yu, clone that can tear space, has powerful combat power, and can be transformed fundamental essence and merge with the original body. How terrifying is that strength? Nangong Yu, the strength that he shows, is it only at the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage? Nangong Yu embraced the doubtful girl in her arms and pinched her soft little hand. He couldn't help lowering her head and kissing her tender cheek again. Sheer, we don't have much time together. Don't worry about other things. Just focus on being with me, okay? The man's voice was low and hoarse with a sense of coquettishness and grievance. Coupling with the exquisite and delicate face of Zhang Juanxiu, even the most stubborn person would be enchanted by his tenderness. Nangong Yu only hated that his clone, that could tear through space, didn't have much time before merging back to the original body. Now that he and Heshi had just established their relationship, it was the most affectionate moment. He couldn't wait to separate from her lips and hold her in his palms. He didn't want to separate from her anymore. Heshi just felt that her ears were hot and her body was soft and weak, but she felt sweet and shy in her heart. She grabbed Nangong Yu's big palm, then she suddenly straightened up and gently made a soft kiss on the man's side face. Immediately afterward, she turned her face and whispered, "Is this okay? I did focus on treating you right?" Nangong Yu responded to her with a fiery deep kiss, completely engulfing her breath. However, the sweet time was always short. Nangong Yu's face was getting paler, and his breath was getting weaker. He put his hand on Heshi's face, but it slowly became cold and empty as if it would disappear at any time. Nangong Yu sighed softly, "Sheer, wait for me for a while. I will be back soon, soon." As soon as the words were spoken, Nangong Yu's body seemed to be dissimated, turning into many light spots and dissipating in the air. Heshi heard from him that it was only his clone disappearing and merging back into the original body. But when Heshi watched this scene, there was still an unspeakable panic in her heart. Even her breathing almost stopped. It was as if Nangong Yu would disappear forever from her life. "Boss, don't worry about it. He'll be fine." There was a weak voice from Little Golden Dragon in his ear. When the fundamental essence returns to his body, he will mostly spit a few mouthful of blood and get itchy. As soon as she heard that, Little Golden Dragon appeared in front of her. Although the little dragon's breath was still a bit weak, it was obvious that his injuries were mostly recovered after consuming the dozen monster essence pills. Now he even had energy to mock Heshi. Heshi grabbed this little one and checked his wound. She only let out a sigh of relief after determining that he was fine. Little Golden Dragon spoke calmly, "Boss, the dragon's vitality is very powerful, especially after entering rank 5. This minor injury is nothing at all. And after swallowing so many monster essence pills, I think my strength improves a lot after I've recovered." However, Little Purple Abyss Vine had the most serious injury. After all, she was a plant. After her root was hurt, it was more difficult to heal than Magical Beast. Little Egg immediately took out the lotus-shaped jade flower that Nangong Yu gave him, and he spoke excitedly, "Little dragon, look, this is the treasure I got from Dad. There is even magical energy in it. After Aunt Little Purple consumes it, she will definitely get better." Little Golden Dragon extended his claw and examined the lotus-shaped jade flow, and he suddenly panicked. Isn't this Xinjiang lotus jade? This is a treasure that can't be bought by hundreds of millions of crystals. King of Hell can actually gift such a magnificent present? He is really so generous. Little Egg held a lotus-shaped jade flower with his small paw. His face looked adored. "Of course, Dad is the most powerful person." "Little dragon, you fell asleep, so you did not see the people who bullied Mom, begged for mercy after being punished by Dad. I decided, in the future, Dad will be my idol. I want to learn like Dad, and I will become as powerful as Dad, and then protect my mom." Little Golden Dragon looked at the cute face, short legs and pink claws of Little Egg, then he pursed his lips without speaking. The few spiritual pets in the void, together with Heshi's opinion, Little Egg only needed to act cute. As for becoming as powerful as Nangong Yu, after thinking about the tall and muscular image of Little Egg, he couldn't help shaking his brain to get rid of the image. That was too unsightly. Little Golden Dragon did not talk to Little Egg and continued, "Boss, do you know what Nangong Yu's current cultivation is?" Heshi frowned. "Isn't it the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage?" She could see through most of the martial artist cultivation, including Feng Yunjing and Nangong Yu, But there were also some people whom she couldn't see through, such as her master and Zijin Immortal Master. But in her eyes, Nangong Yu's cultivation was indeed at the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage. Little Golden Dragon's small paw was holding his dragon's chin with a thoughtful look. "Boss, do you know what was Nangong Yu's trick just now?" In response to Heshi's gaze, Little Golden Dragon shook his claws. "That's the clone of the fundamental essence. Once the martial artist's cultivatoin reaches a certain level, they can use spiritual power to condense fundamental essence. If the fundamental essence is strong enough, you can make fundamental essence transfigure your own clone. In general, the higher the cultivation, the closer the clone of the fundamental essence to the original user, and of course, the stronger the strength. However, it's strange." Little Golden Dragon looked dignified. Logically, there are very few martial artists below divine stage who can condense the fundamental essence's clone. The people in the Miluo continent who have heard about the fundamental essence's clone are probably very few. What's more, Nangong Yu's clone is still so solid. It seems that even its sensory emotion is exactly the same as his original body. The clone can also stay for a long time. This is definitely not a martial artist on the nascent soul stage can do it. Let alone he also tore through time and space. Even if he is a martial artist of divine stage, there are very few people who can tear through time and space and enter the enclosed space. When my master, Zijin Immortal Master, was still in Miluo continent, he might not be able to do it, but Nangong Yu did it. Heshi listened to Little Golden Dragon's words, but instead of being happy, she became more worried. "You also said that this is not easy to do. Then he tore through space and sent his clone here. Will he really be fine?" Little Golden Dragon looked at Heshi's worried expression, and he immediately turned his eyes and laughed. "Well, boss, you don't have to worry about it. You can see his ease look and his reluctant to disappear, then you will know. The King of Hell is so powerful. Since he was certain that he could do it, then he will be fine." What Little Golden Dragon didn't say was that it was of course no problem to condense the fundamental essence's clone, but once the fundamental essence's clone was condensed, it meant that his strength would be divided into two. If the actual body was dangerous, he would most likely not be able to cope. In addition, the consumption of spiritual power was extremely huge to tear through space. Looking at Nangong Yu's pale face just now, he definitely didn't feel good. But he didn't want his boss to worry, so he refused to tell her the truth. Since His Royal Highness King of Hell didn't want to reveal it, then I won't talk much. Lest my boss worries for no reason. Thinking of this, Little Golden Dragon immediately shifted the topic. He turned his claw, then a man who had no limbs and his lower body part was badly mutilated appeared in front of Heshi. "Boss, the King of Hell specifically left him to boss to deal with him." How do we deal with him?" Mr. Liao, who was thrown in front of Heshi, had his hands and feet cut off. Even his reproductive organ and pelvic bones were also broken by stones. Mr. Liao, after all, was a martial artist with relatively high cultivation. Although he lost a lot of blood, he wouldn't die. At this point, he was smashed by Little Golden Dragon, and he immediately groaned and turned around. When he opened his eyes and saw Heshi looking down at him coldly, he was frightened that his body trembled. "Forgive me. Please forgive me. All this was what Feng Lianying asked me to do. It isn't related to me. Fairy, please forgive me. I will never dare to do it again." Heshi looked at him with a sneer. There was no mercy in her eyes. "Mr. Liao, I have heard that many young boys and girls were killed in your hands. I don't know if you still remember their cry for mercy before they died." Mr. Liao's body was stiff, then he cried even more pitifully. "Miss Shiyu, the men and women I played with were mostly mortals who did not have cultivation. Those people were just scumbags. Those people weren't even worth being mentioned by Miss Shiyu. Even if I kill thousands of them, they are just a bunch of nobodies. This time, it was my fault to recognize your relationship with the King of Hell. I deserve death to offend you. As long as Miss Shiyu can let me go, I'm willing to offer my precious medicinal pills that I keep for my whole life. And those battle puppets I made, if Miss Shiyu wants, I can give them all to you. Please let me go for this time." Mr. Liao took his words for granted, but Heshi's face became more and more sinister. In the eyes of these beasts, mortals and low-level martial artists were nobodies who could be trampled and tortured freely by him. However, they did not expect that they would be the nobodies and animals under the feet of the other one day. It was better to be dead rather than living. The corner of Heshi's mouth slowly evoked a charming arc. Even if Mr. Liao's situation was so miserable now, he was still attracted by her charm. He kept swallowing his saliva. He heard Heshi saying slowly, "Just rest assured I won't kill you." Mr. Liao breathed a sigh of relief, then he had a lot of bad ideas in his mind. His cultivation methods was different from the other martial artists. If the other martial artists' bodies were destroyed and their pelvic bones were crushed, they would definitely be screwed. But who was this Liao Qingfu? He was best in making puppet. Even if his body was ruined, he only needed to make a puppet and put his soul in, then he could still walk freely and play with those beautiful men and women. It was just that his cultivation would forever be stuck at the puppet's cultivation forever after transferring his soul. However, as long as he found a puppet that had powerful cultivation, would he be able to live as ease? When he successfully transferred his soul, he would definitely get this chick and play with her. Such a beautiful girl, and she is still the sweetheart of His Royal Highness King of Hell. I wonder what is the taste of pressing her underneath me, ha? Mr. Liao's mind was rippling, but Heshi suddenly reached out and sprinkled some powder on him. Mr. Liao's face changed. He thought she was poisoning him, so he suddenly screamed, "You? What do you want to do? I tell you, if you poison me, it won't do you any good." Mr. Liao shouted for a long time, but Heshi just smiled faintly without giving any response. Mr. Liao froze and found out that after those powders were spilled on his body, instead of feeling pain and itching, he felt a lot of relief in the severed limbs. He suddenly overjoyed and sneered, "Miss Shiyu, I'm really glad that you can be so sensible and considerate." But before he finished speaking, Heshi spoke to Little Golden Dragon, "Find a good place for him, and remember that it must be a quiet and nourishing place. I don't want him to die so soon." Little Golden Dragon smiled, and he looked at Mr. Liao's eyes full of strangeness and excitement. "Boss, please rest assured. When did I fail to execute the task that you gave? But you are really amazing, boss. Why do you have so many strange medicines on your hand? You have all kinds of herbs. I never thought that there would be this drug in the sky. Well, if it were because we can't stay in Breaking Spirit Mountain for a long time, I really wanted to stay here and see the end of this scum." Heshi patted his little head. "Stop the flattery. If you want to learn, I can teach you how to configure and use these poisons when I am free." "Whoa, thank you, boss." Little Golden Dragon flew into the sky delightedly after hearing it, then he dived down from a high altitude, grabbed the crippled body of Mr. Liao. "Boss, let me find a good place for him to rest." Until then, Mr. Liao's eyes finally showed a look of fear. He couldn't understand the meaning of the woman's conversation with her pet, but he knew that he might have a miserable end. When he was brought into the air by Little Golden Dragon, Mr. Liao couldn't help but shouted in horror and angrily, "Shiyu, you shameless bitch! It is your honor to let me play. When I'm free, I will turn you into a puppet and let you crawl on the ground like a dog. Shiyu, if you kill me, my master, Black Law Protector, will not forgive you. The Feng family will not forgive you either." Heshi sneered. She didn't look at the disgusting scum anymore. She turned and walked away. "Feng family, either you die or I die. I am waiting for you." Little Golden Dragon grabbed Mr. Liao's body and flew to many places. He finally found a mountain crack with a length of hundreds of feet. The crack was deep, but it was very narrow. It could only allow one person to pass. It looked dark and gloomy down there, not even the sunlight could reach. One could know that it was a humid and cold place down there by just looking down. Little Golden Dragon suddenly laughed. He finally found a satisfactory place. He grabbed Mr. Liao's dive and flew down the crack. When he was about to land, he released his claw and threw Mr. Liao's crippled body down. When Mr. Liao was thrown, he suddenly screamed miserably. His body was desperately trying to struggle. Then he found in horror that he was stuck in the mountain. He could not move. Little golden dragon hovered in the air and looked down at him. He sighed, "This is really a good place. You can't see the sun, but there is a thin layer of spirit. You can't die even if you want to die. It's so far from the ground, and the mountain crack is so small. Even the magical beast can't get down. As long as I simply set up a soundproof enchantment, I believe that no one will find you here for thousands of years." Mr. Liao's eyes were full of panic and he trembled. What do you mean? You left me here, what do you want to do? I warn you, if I'm dead, my master will know. My master is an expert of the nascent soul stage, he will never let you go. Ah, little golden dragon laughed when he heard it. You can rest assured, you will not be dead. My boss has told me that it's too easy for you to die so easily. Do you want to know what boss had sprinkled on you? You will know very soon. As Mr. Liao wanted to say something, he suddenly heard a rustling noise in his ear. The sound was dense as if it was coming from the ground, and it also seemed to come from the crack in the mountain. Then it approached him in a hurry. Mr. Liao's body was stiff for a while. He slowly turned his head and looked to the side as if his head was stuck. Then he saw a scene that terrified his heart. Countless bugs emerged from the ground and between the mountain walls and crawled toward him rapidly. Mr. Liao's eyes widened in horror. His mouth was widened, then he watched the bugs dig into his eyes, ears, and nose. Ah! The shrilling scream resounded in the deep valley. Little golden dragon covered his ears. He said annoyingly, "You are so noisy, useless thing. When you torture other little girls and boys, don't you think their screams are good? Don't you enjoy their look of despair? Why, now it's your turn, shouldn't you feel happy and enjoy it?" The miserable scream lasted for 5 minutes. Those bugs that appeared out of nowhere suddenly disappeared like a tide as if they had received a command. At this time, Mr. Liao's face full of biting flesh and blood. He was already out of breath. However, the thin spiritual power under the mountain began to enter his body, repairing his fatal wounds. It allowed him to be sober to endure the pain and suffering, but he could not die. Little Golden Dragon said with a laughter, "How? Boss medicine is powerful? At 12 hours every day, your body will emit a fragrance that attracts insects and ants for 5 minutes every hour. After 5 minutes, it will become the fragrant that the insects hate the most. This can ensure that you will be suffering for every moment, but you can't die." "No, please forgive." Mr. Liao's voice was husky. The panic in his eyes turned into tears and despair. "Please, please, please kill me, kill me." The smile on Little Golden Dragon's face suddenly became cold. He smirked. "When the people you tortured begged for your mercy, did you spare them? Now in this dark and humid ground where you can't see the sun, you can feel the despair and torture they once experienced, feel their curse and resentment. Finally, there is another sentence that my boss wants me to bring to you. There are karma and justice in this world. Do you think God will spare a perverted scum like you?" As Little Golden Dragon finished speaking, he quickly set up a soundproof enchantment in the valley, then he flew away from this place leisurely. He couldn't wait to go back to his boss. He was afraid that he would spit out the monster essence pill he consumed for taking another glance at this scum. Under the crack, Mr. Liao just felt that the screaming and crying of those girls and boys constantly resounded in his ears. Then, the ferocious and malicious faces constantly appeared in front of him. Each of them was bruised and crippled. They were stretching out their bone-like claws toward him, asking him to pay his life. "Ah!" Mr. Liao screamed miserably and passed out. However, his journey to hell was far from over. In breaking Spirit Mountain, Heshi re-examined the injuries on her body. She found that Nangong Yu used some kind of method that she didn't know, and those internal injuries that took at least half a month to recover were now almost recovered. Purple Abyss Vine was also nourished by Yin-Yang Lotus Jade, slowly recovering as before. Now the main vine was bustling with life, and it did not look deprived like a few days ago. Heshi breathed a sigh of relief. She decided to enter the 4th Order Magical Beast area. After all, she might still meet the pervert Feng Yunjing here. Feng Yunjing was not what she could handle now. To go to enchantment, she naturally had to pass by where Feng Lianying and Ye Jinshan were now. He let Little Egg completely hide his spiritual power, and used light steps to reach the border between the rank 5 magical beast and the rank 4 magical beast area. From a distance, she heard Feng Lianying's moaning and the man's rough roar. There was a sneer in the corner of Heshi's mouth, but she didn't bother looking at them. She went straight through the enchantment of the rank 4 magical beast area. Most of the martial artists from Breaking Spirit Mountain were all disciples of the famous sect. Therefore, they rarely went to the black market, where a place specially prepared for non-martial artists. Therefore, no one here knew that the video of Feng Lianying having sexual intercourse was spread to the entire Miluo continent. However, the people of Feng family and the major families in Breaking Spirit Mountain would also see this video soon. How ugly would Feng family's face look like by that time? Thinking of Nangong Yu, who did all this for her, He was a little worried. She knew that Nangong Yu must be doing something very important, but no matter how she asked, Nangong Yu would only tell that there was nothing more important than her. Nangong Yu, whose clone has returned to the original body, is he all right? However, He, who was worried about Nangong Yu, didn't know that Nangong Yu was stepping on a pool of blood on the ground now. He was looking at the corpse across the square in the sect with a sinister smile. Everyone who looked at him at this moment had only one thought in their mind. This person is a devil. However, the Azure Dragon who followed Nangong Yu could see his feeble state and pale face at a glance. Master actually cast a clone and tear through space to save the princess. This is really for the princess. Never mind the plan and revenge, he doesn't even care about his life. Azure Dragon clenched his hand tightly. He lowered his voice after a while. Master, are you all right? Nangong Yu didn't answer him, but he just said lightly, how is the Wu Go's progress over there? After hearing Nangong Yu's mention of the matter, Azure Dragon no longer dared to think wildly. He said quickly, Wu Go will breach this 9-turn Earth mysterious array in about 5 minutes. Azure Dragon and Nangong Yu didn't lower their voices at all when discussing this. The martial artists, who initially looked terrified, looked despair when they heard this. Suddenly, a white-bearded old man stepped out and yelled at Nangong Yu. Nangong Yu, I didn't expect you to be such an ungrateful animal. Both the Feng family and Lu Li sect treat you well, and our patriarch even saved your life. Not only you are not grateful, you even requite kindness with enmity, trying to eliminate Lu Li sect. Nangong Yu, aren't you afraid of suffering divine retribution and ending up being thundered to death by the sky? Saved me? Nangong Yu smirked. His eyes were cold and indifferent. His gaze on them was as if he was looking at death corpse. Elder Feng, you know better than anyone whether Feng family is my benefactor or enemy. You really thought I was ignorant at that time, so you could use a few lies to coax me? Hee, or did you tell too many lies that you think they are true? The bearded elder man called Elder Feng's face suddenly changed. He stumbled and stepped back. Then he spoke in a trembled, You bullshit, what enemy? You don't simply find a reason for being ungrateful. Nangong Yu looked at him coldly like he was looking at a clown. I originally wanted to let you live a little longer, but you did something that you shouldn't. You shouldn't touch the person that I care the most. Since you are digging your own grave, then don't blame me for counting the old and new hatred together. Elder Feng was trembling under Nangong Yu's terrifying Shura-like eyes. Then he screamed, You! Nangong Yu, do you know the consequences of doing this today? How dare you kill so many disciples of Lu Li sect? The Feng family will never let you go. Nangong Yu raised his eyebrows slightly. His handsome face looked extraordinarily fine and charming under the bloody sunset. It was a face that could turn people upside down. But at the moment, Lu Li sect disciple only felt that he was more horrible than devil. Feng family won't let me go? Nangong Yu chuckled leisurely. Then, I will kill you all, and don't let Feng family know for the time being. Wouldn't that be fine? Wait until I eliminate Feng family in the future. You all can reunite in hell. I won't be late to complain to the Feng family by then. The mountain where Lu Li sect was isolated by Wu Go's enchantment, No sound or information could be transmitted. When Nangongyu sneaked into Luli sect, he chose the magical beast forest that nobody else would ever think of. So, as long as Luli sect's people were completely killed, it was impossible for anyone to know that Nangongyu eliminated Luli sect. Nangongyu, you are going too far. Elder Feng was so angry that the muscle and beard on his face trembled. Then he roared, "You really think that you can destroy Luli sect with you Nangongyu alone? Stop dreaming. We Luli sect is one of the 4 major sections. Even if you are very talented, you are only at the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage. I don't believe that we can't beat you if all of us will join forces." As soon as Elder Feng spoke, he rose into the sky. He immediately broke out of the range of Luli sect's mountain guard array. At the same time, there were 3 men of the initial of nascent soul stage flying together with him. The 3 men surrounded Nangongyu, and they all stirred up with their spiritual power. Their faces were full of ghastly murderous intentions. Just when the 3 were about to make a move, an excited voice suddenly came from not far away. "Master, 9-turn Earth mysterious array is breached." Before the words were finished, the light shield that was surrounding the whole sect trembled and disappeared without a trace. A cold, bloodthirsty smile evoked at the corner of Nangongyu's mouth. He raised his hand that was long, fair and well-proportioned joint. Then he waved leisurely, "Kill dash." It was just a short word, but the mountain shook and the weather changed instantly. Countless martial artists wearing black armor came out from all directions with a murderous vibe. They were charging at panic Luli sect's disciple. Luli sect's disciple's face was full of astonishment and fear. Their hands that were holding magic weapons were shaking. The arrays they cast were disrupted. Their eyes were full of disbelief. They were Luli sect, one of the 4 major sects in the world. Everyone was so respectful toward their disciples. They couldn't wait to kneel and curry favor with them. Outside the sect, there was a powerful 9-turn Earth mysterious array. There were also several nascent soul stage elders protecting it, and there were countless gold core stage martial artists. They never thought that one day, Luli sect would be breached, and the 9-turn Earth mysterious array would be broken. And they, Luli sect's disciples, who were always high above, would become a lamb slaughtered by others. When Nangongyu shouted "kill," except fear, there was only despair left in them. People wearing black armor were more like trained soldiers than martial artists. Their steps were adjusted uniformly, and their move was swift. As soon as they rushed into Luli sect's gate, they swung their swords and started slaughtering. That was the king of Hell Mansion's most powerful elite, Miluo Continent's most fearsome army Iron Kirin. In just a moment of few breaths, Luli sect was filled with blood. People were mourning everywhere. More corpses were lying on the stairs and the gate. Their blood was staining all the blue stone brick on the square. When the 3 elders who besieged Nangongyu in midair saw the tragic state of their disciples, they were so furious that their eyes were filled with blood. Mad hatred and murderous intention made the spiritual power around them surged out desperately. "Nangongyu, you dare to destroy my Luli sect's mountain guard array, kill my Luli sect's disciple. I will definitely tear you into pieces." Elder Feng's eyes were red. He suddenly took out a red medical pill, crushed the shell desperately, and swallowed the scary little bug inside. The old man standing next to Elder Feng couldn't help but exclaim, "This is the spirit burning voodoo that can inspire potential. Elder Feng, you take this spirit voodoo. Even if you win, you will be consumed by spiritual voodoo. By that time, not only your cultivation will be greatly reduced, it will even lead to the destruction of Dantian and death." After Elder Feng swallowed the spiritual voodoo, the turbulent spiritual power of the whole body suddenly skyrocketed. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation suddenly rose from the initial of the nascent soul stage to advanced level. Elder Feng looked at Nangongyu and laughed wildly. "Nangongyu, you ungrateful dog. We Feng family let you live previously because we thought that you still have value. If you obediently do your King of Hell and let Feng family utilize you obediently, maybe you can live well. But you just don't know how to do what's good for you, thinking that you can compete with the Feng family with your little strength? Don't dream. Even if I give up my life, I must kill you, this sinister beast here, to eliminate the trouble of Feng family. Nan Gongyu looked at him quietly without any fluctuation on his face. His eyes were full of disdain. You want to kill me here? Elder Feng, are you overreaching yourself? You are just at the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage. I have now used the spirit-burning voodoo to stimulate my potential. I will soon reach the peak of the nascent soul stage. Together with my 2 disciples' help, Nan Gongyu, do you really think that you can win? Elder Feng yelled. The spiritual power on his body increased even more as time passed. Nan Gongyu, I will now kill you. When the Iron Kirin loses the King of Hell, they will be a bunch of trash. They can only be trampled by our Feng family, huh? Nan Gongyu looked calm and didn't answer his words, but he slowly pulled out a cyan flying sword from the storage ring. As soon as this flying sword appeared, a dragon roar seemed to resound through the sky. The surrounding azure dragon and others looked difficult as they were originally suppressed by the spirit pressure of Elder Feng, but this dragon roar made them feel ease. When Elder Feng and others saw the cyan flying sword in the hands of Nan Gongyu, they suddenly panicked and shouted in shock, Sealed! Sealed dragon sword, how is it possible? How could Feng Long sword be in your hands? Is that the one who got sealed dragon domain's secret territory is you? Nan Gongyu didn't bother the shouts of these people. He just held the cyan flying sword in front of himself and dropped a gentle kiss on the cold sword body. This was what Shi'er gave him. That little girl is always duplicity, stubborn and persistent, but in fact, she cares about me from the beginning. Whether she cured his poison at the King of Hell Mansion, got angry in the sealed dragon territory because of Feng Lianying, and had a rare and fragile attachment to him in the Breaking Spirit Mountain, it all made him so touched and affectionate. Soon, he could return to the little girl, guard her forever, and spoil her. Let her be his wife. Nan Gongyu lifted his head. The pirated version of the sealed dragon sword was whistling in the sky. All of a sudden, thundercloud gathered and a wild wind approached. Elder Feng's face was extremely ugly, but he shouted, even if he has the sealed dragon sword, he can't control the sword now, let alone, we are 3 people. How can we not win him? Let's do it together and kill Nan Gongyu. The Feng family won't treat you unfairly afterward. The 2 elders of Lu Li sect regained their consciousness. They immediately took out their magic weapon and charged at Nan Gongyu. Just before the 3 men hit him, Nan Gongyu's figure suddenly flickered and disappeared without a trace. The 3 were startled. Suddenly, the youngest elder sensed danger in his heart, exclaiming, I lost contact with my magic weapons. Before he finished speaking, he felt a cold breath behind him. He turned back suddenly, and there was already a thunderbolt pearl in his hand. But before he activated it, he felt that coldness in his dantian. Then all his spiritual power leaked out as if a bottle had cracked an opening. The elder stared in horror, looking at the handsome face near him. His body was trembling like a sieve. He reached out and tried to grab Nan Gongyu's neck, but his body fell down uncontrollably. At an altitude of tens of meters, without the protection of spiritual power, the elder fell to the ground and instantly became a meat sauce. When Elder Feng saw this unexpected change, he felt that a mouthful of blood was stuck on his chest, and his heart was painful like convulsions. Nan Gongyu, you even killed fellow disciple Qin. I will kill you, however. Before he finished speaking, Nan Gongyu's mouth again sneered like Shura. He fluttered, and he appeared behind the gray-haired elder this time. The elder had been prepared for a long time. His body suddenly glowed with a dazzling red light, and he launched the spiral dart in his hand straight at Nan Gongyu. However, he was fast, but Nan Gongyu was faster than him. The sealed dragon sword, which was originally high in the sky, suddenly whistled down and easily parried the elder's spiral dart lightly. Immediately, a cold, slender hand strangled his throat, making him unable to breathe. The elder wanted to sneer. He was a martial artist and even a nascent soul stage martial artist. As long as he could absorb spiritual power, as long as his nascent soul still alive, never mind he couldn't breathe, he wouldn't die even if his heart stopped. But soon he couldn't laugh, because he found that his body seemed to be imprisoned by a cold, evil power. All his spiritual power could not be channeled, and he couldn't even try to channel his nascent soul. But how is this possible? No one can do it, and no cultivation method can do it. Even the peak of the nascent soul stage is impossible. There is someone in the legend of the Miluo continent. There is a kind of spiritual power that is the nemesis of all other spiritual powers and cultivation methods. Dark spiritual power. The elder's eyes widened in horror as he looked incredulously at the young, overly handsome man. How is this possible? Nangongyu is only 20 years old. How is this possible? This was his last thought, and then a bone-snapping sound came into his ear, and his consciousness fell into coma eternally. Elder Feng couldn't believe his eyes. He thought that the 3 nascent soul stage martial artists should have the advantage when facing Nangongyu. But in just 2 moves, Nangongyu actually killed his 2 fellow disciples. How can that be? Isn't he only the intermediate level of the nascent soul stage? Elder Feng roared hysterically and hurriedly charged at Nangongyu with a glazed lamp. Sealed Dragon Sword was making a buzzing dragon roar. It made a violent hum when it was colliding with the glazed lamp. After a moment of colliding, the glazed lamps shattered and scattered, leaving no fragments, but Sealed Dragon Sword returned to Nangongyu's hands in an unharmed condition. Nangongyu's figure flickered, and he appeared before Elder Feng. He could end his life by extending his hand. No! I'm not willing. Elder Feng growled angrily. I must not let the Feng family face such a threat. Even if I lose my soul and spirit today, I will perish together with you. As soon as Elder Feng spoke, the nascent soul in his dantian erupted suddenly in a dazzling light. Not good. He wants to self-destruct his nascent soul. Azure Dragon exclaimed, Master retreats quickly. Elder Feng's body lit up with intense light as he quickly retreated. He laughed out loud. Nangongyu, you can't stop me anymore. As long as my nascent soul explodes, the circle of hundreds of miles will be flattened. You and your men will not survive. You all die. Nangongyu looked at the old man with a sneer and sarcasm. Elder Feng's body figure that was retreating rapidly stagnated. He didn't know what he bumped into. Before he had time to look back, there was a sharp pain after feeling a coldness at his back. Something penetrated into his dantian, and then the force firmly held his nascent soul that was about to burst. The next moment, something that stunned everyone happened. One Nangongyu, who was sneering, was standing in front of Elder Feng. Another Nangongyu was grasping his nascent soul at his back. 2 Nangongyu surrounded Elder Feng at the front and back. The nascent soul that was about to explode could no longer be active as if it was suppressed by some kind of power. Elder Feng's eyes were widened. His eyes were red and filled with terror. No, this is impossible. Why do you have a clone, and why can you prevent nascent soul from exploding? What is your actual strength? What cultivation method do you learn? Nangongyu in front of him smiled faintly. Don't your Feng family always have someone to monitor me and investigate my movement and strength anytime and anywhere? Why haven't you figured out my strength yet? Nangongyu, have you always been hiding your strength? Elder Feng's voice was hoarse and horrified. You are guarding the Feng family since the beginning. Nangongyu, how much do you know? What do you want to do? Hee, how much do I know? Nangongyu chuckled. I know everything that I shouldn't know, and I knew it a long time ago. As for what I want to do, Nangongyu suddenly took back his smile and turned into a spine-chilling expression. I just want to kill all those who threaten her. I said that. I wanted to allow you guys to live for a while. After all, it's not good for me to fight with Feng family so early. However, you provoked someone that you shouldn't? Now, you all die for me. As soon as the words were spoken, the hand holding nascent soul tightened suddenly. A crack sound could be heard. The powerful nascent soul that was bursting was shattered by a dark force. Nangong Yu, my superior will know what you did. Nangong Yu, you can't run. The Feng family will not let you go. My superior is even so. Nangong Yu, you can't live for long. The Nangong Yu who crushed nascent soul's body shook, dissipated in the air, and the fundamental essence returned to its original body. Nangong Yu retrieved his sealed dragon sword and landed slowly from the sky. As soon as he landed, he turned pale and squirted blood. Master! Azure Dragon, Wu Yu, Wu Go and the others rushed anxiously to help Nangong Yu. Master, are you okay? Wu Yu was turning in circles anxiously. Master, you used the clone of fundamental essence twice continuously, and you are injured trying to prevent the nascent soul from self-destructing. Now there is no doctor here. What should I do? Wu Go was also anxious that he broke into sweat. He couldn't help but said, Master, how can you transfigure your clone and tear through space at such a critical moment? If there is any accident, never mind utterly failed our plan, even Master's life is possible. Nangong Yu wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth, and indifferently took out a Bodhi fruit and a lotus-pattern peach from the storage ring. His tone was cold and indifferent. Since when you can judge my decision? I dare not. Nangong Yu swallowed both the Bodhi fruit and the lotus-pattern peach. The pain in the body was suddenly better, and the exhausted spiritual power was completely replenished. Seeing his face looked a lot better, Azure Dragon wiped the sweat from his face. He secretly decided that he must teach Wu Xing, this useless thing, a lesson when they were back. I let him protect the princess, but how did he protect her? Every time the master had to rush to the rescue her. Even the master's plan was almost ruined by it. Fortunately, the plan went well this time, but what about next time? It seems that Master really loves the princess as himself. Now, he even eliminated Lu Li sect for the princess in advance. For the sake of the Master's safety, we still find some ways to protect our noble princess. Nangong Yu adjusted his breath for a moment, then got up and looked at the silent Lu Li sect that only had the smell of blood. He sneered, Azure Dragon, did you clean it all up? Report to the Master, I have cleaned it up. There is no survivor. I also let Iron Kirin to clear the traces left by us. Nangong Yu nodded. Let's go. I believe that the destruction of Lu Li sect will give Feng family a headache for a while. Azure Dragon nodded quickly, following the steps of Nangong Yu, and led the Iron Kirin to lurk into the magical beast forest again. Before leaving, Azure Dragon couldn't help looking back. The big sects who had been surrounded by the fairy air now had only a bloody death silence. On the beams of Sex Hall, several crows had fallen on it. It was like they smelled the rotten smell of the corpse and they were waiting for a meal. Lu Li sect, this was the Lu Li sect, one of the 4 major gates of Miluo continent. They perished silently in the hands of the king of Hell Mansion. Azure Dragon smiled slightly, turning his head to look at Nangong Yu's eyes full of fiery and adore. He no longer stopped his footsteps and followed up in a hurry. The sun rose, the evening of the Breaking Spirit Mountain fades away, and the daylight covered the mountain again. All night passed, even the recording talisman was burned out, but the outdoor sex party was not over yet. When the sun shone on this land, one could see undulating figures hiding in the hills. It was occasionally accompanied by fiery moans. Ouyang Haoshuan's body landed in this area. Before he could search for the familiar figure, he felt a thick and disgusting obscene breath, mixing with a bloody smell. He walked past the corpses and found that they were all Gold Core stage cultivators, and they were wearing Lu Li sect disciple costumes. As he walked past the corpses, the hoarse moan of the woman and the roar of pain and joy by men became clearer and closer. Thinking of Shiyu's call for help last night, Ouyang Haoshuan's heart froze as he frowned. What is going on here? Could it be that Shiyu encountered something unexpected? Thinking of this, Ouyang Haoshuan no longer stayed. He hurried forward and removed away the grass that covered those bodies. In the weeds, 2 or 3 men were lingering with a woman. The 3 men looked disgustingly ugly, but the woman had a beautiful face. But at this time, her original fairy temperament was replaced by lust. She was covered with marks that were left by men. However, she seemed to feel unsatisfied. She kept holding the two men on her body, making hoarse moans, and kept saying, "So comfortable, not enough, not enough." Ouyang Haoshuan recognized the true face of the woman at a glance. Isn't that Feng Lianying who once framed Shiyu for murdering in Breaking Spirit Mountain Palace? What Ice Lotus Fairy, pretty and innocent jade girl, and the high-profile daughter of the Feng family. Now it seems that she is obviously a shameless, lascivious girl. Several bodies were lying beside Feng Lianying. They were all ugly-looking men. However, at this time they looked skinny as if they were drained by some kind of succubus and they turned into a dead body. This is clearly the miserable result after man's essence being drained by woman. Ouyang Haoshuan's eyes glanced over Feng Lianying and the three men on her body. Sure enough, Feng Lianying was getting more and more excited, but the three men already had sunken eye sockets as if their vitality would be drained until empty at any time. The daughter of the Feng family, the young master of the Lu Li sect, actually cultivated such an evil cultivation method. She sucked man's essence by selling out her beauty. This was simply disgusting. Ouyang Haoshuan didn't want to watch this disgusting scene that made him sick for even looking at it for a minute. He turned around as he was about to leave. Suddenly, there was another man with a naked torso in the grass. Ouyang Haoshuan also knew this man too. He was Nie Jinshan, the head disciple of Lu Li sect. Nie Jinshan's gloomy eyes glanced at the entangled men and women. Then he looked at Ouyang Haoshuan and smiled lowly. "How long does young Master Ouyang want to watch here? Do you also want to taste the Ice Lotus Fairy?" Ouyang Haoshuan showed an extremely disgusted expression. He said coldly, "You all are doing such a disgusting thing, why are you afraid of being seen by others?" Nie Jinshan laughed. "Not anyone can have a taste of the miss of the Feng family. This is a unique opportunity. Don't young Master Ouyang want to try it? Rest assured, you are a gold core stage, so you won't be drained to death like this scum. See, am I not fine?" When Nie Jinshan said this sentence, it was full of temptation like he was sharing a magic weapon. Ouyang Haoshuan was even more disgusted as if he would vomit for taking one more glance. Such a dirty and shameless woman. If you like it, keep it for yourself. After speaking, he turned and left quickly without speaking more with Nie Jinshan. "I didn't see Shiyu here. It seems she is out of danger." Ouyang Haoshuan's spiritual power was injected into the black stone, and he was found that the black stone was still pointing in the same direction. From this point of view, that direction led to the rank 4 magical beast area. Ouyang Haoshuan no longer hesitated. He quickly crossed the enchantment and entered the rank 4 magical beast area. Nie Jinshan, who stayed in place, held the recording talisman that was already recorded in his hand, and he revealed a vicious smile. Ouyang Haoshuan followed the instructions of the black stone and quickly came over a valley. However, when he looked into the valley, he was frightened and revealed a terrified expression. He saw in the hundreds of square meters of the valley, there were more than a dozen rank 4 magical beasts surrounding a fragile young man. Those magical beasts were ferocious. Their spiritual power was pulsating. There were even loud roars from time to time. The young man trapped in the middle was slender. He had dark hair. His skin was as white as snow under the sun and as delicate as jade. From the perspective of Ouyang Haoshuan, he can see the faint smile on his mouth, the beautiful and delicate eyebrows, and the slender neck. The young man looked so delicate and so cowardly as if he would be torn into pieces at any time. But his eyes were so calm as if the dozen magical beasts in front of him were just ants that he could kill at any time. Ouyang Haoshuan took a cool breath and then breathed a sigh of relief. This young man was obviously Shiyu. Fortunately, he arrived immediately, otherwise he might see his body being torn by magical beast. Ouyang Haoshuan was about to jump down to rescue him, but saw that the boy who had stood up suddenly moved. Purple vines rose into the sky, extending toward the magical beast that surrounded her in all directions. Immediately afterward, Li Shui's sword was launched. He gently made the first strike, the second strike, the third strike. The next moment, Ouyang Haoshuan was shocked. Countless swords rained from the sky like a countless meteor. They curved through the sky, bringing a chilling sword energy and killing intention. The purple vines entangled the bodies of those magical beasts, preventing them from escaping and making any moves. Shwa, shwa, shwa. Wherever the sword lights rained, there were corpses of the magical beasts. Flesh and blood were everywhere. The magical beast's heart-piercing, miserable roar sounded again and again in the valley. In just a short period of time, there was no living magical beast in this valley anymore. There was only the young man who had the smell of blood, but he wasn't stained by the blood, which made up a sharp contrast. Ouyang Haoshuan held her breath tightly. He could hardly believe his eyes. That was a dozen rank 4 magical beasts. Even if it were him, he couldn't kill all of them so swiftly and easily. And this young man in front of him was just the Foundation Establishment stage. Foundation Establishment stage. He killed more than a dozen rank 4 magical beasts on his own? Who would believe in it? In the valley, Heshi, who was about to collect the magical beast monster essence pill, seemed to feel something. She suddenly looked up in the direction of Ouyang Haoshuan, and she said coldly, "Who is it? Show yourself." Ouyang Haoshuan suddenly woke up and quickly channeled his spiritual power, slowly falling from the top of the mountain into the valley. Heshi saw the appearance of the person. She immediately dispelled her alert and nodded at him. "Young Master Ouyang, why are you here?" Ouyang Haoshuan took out the black stone with a guilty expression on his face. "Young Master Shi, I received your plea for help the day before yesterday, but at that time, in order to avoid a few mysterious people who was tracking me, I got into the forbidden enchantment of the Breaking Spirit Mountain. I couldn't get out for quite some time. I was so anxious in the array at that time. I managed to break the prohibition in the early hours of this morning, so I hurried in. Fortunately, young Master Shi, you are all right, otherwise I really—" As she smiled. Her eyes showed a little grateful expression. She said lightly, "Young Master Ouyang, you don't need to be bothered by it. I asked you for help because I was accidentally sent into the rank 5 magical beast area. I was afraid I couldn't handle it, so I contacted you. As for young Master Ouyang, you came to this rank 4 magical beast area for me. Not only your strength will be deprived by the prohibition, it may even affect your big hunting match results. I'm safe here now. Why don't young Master Ouyang go back now?" Ouyang Haoshuan quickly shook his head and said, "No, I didn't come here for the sake of getting more places in the match. I just wanted to experience it. It didn't make much difference for me to be in the rank 4 magical beast area or the rank 5 magical beast area. What's more, I don't know if the mysterious people who followed me are still in the rank 5 magical beast area. If they are still looking for me, then I would be safer in this rank 4 magical beast area." Heshi raised his eyebrows when he heard the words and wondered, "Mysterious men were following you? Do you know who they are?" "I don't know." Ouyang Haoshuan frowned. His eyes like dim jades revealed a hint of coldness. "But I can feel that they have bad intentions, and their cultivation is very high. Most of them are at the advanced stage of the gold core stage. Especially the leader among them, I couldn't even detect his cultivation level. I felt that something was off at the time, so I used the martial artists who teleported with me to cover me up and finally hid in the prohibition of the Breaking Spirit Mountain." Ouyang Haoshuan squinted his eyes and said slowly, "Because my father is the person in charge of this competition, I am familiar with the prohibition and enchantment of the Breaking Spirit Mountain main peak. That was why I could escape by chance. Those people seemed to be sure that they could catch me. If it weren't for the terrifying prohibition of the Breaking Spirit Mountain, I would have fallen into their hands." Heshi frowned. "Do you know why they want to catch you?" "It definitely won't be a good thing," Ouyang Haoshuan sneered. "I heard one of them say that if they can't complete the mission and they can't catch me alive, they will be whipped until they get cramped when they go back." Heshi suddenly remembered what happened to Ouyang Haoshuan, and she could not help asking, "Could it be the same group of people who severed your meridians in the magical beast forest?" "It shouldn't be." Ouyang Haoshuan shook his head. The person who set me up in Magical Beast Forest didn't have high cultivation, but the poisons he carried were extremely rare. In addition, he bought my cousin off and conspired against me. I only fell into his trap because of that. However, whether it is the person who set me up in the Magical Beast Forest or the person who wants to catch me in Breaking Spirit Mountain now, if they think that Ouyang Haoshuan is as weak as that day, then I am afraid they will be disappointed. As these words were spoken, the light in Ouyang Haoshuan's eyes was glittering as if it had a terrifying coldness. There was a dark and gloomy breath on his entire body. How could he be the facile and graceful young master in Yanjing City? It seemed that 1 year when his meridians were broken still had a huge impact on him. However, when Ouyang Haoshuan's gaze fell on Heshi Qingjuan's beautiful face, his original gloomy expression immediately became soft and gentle. Young Master Shi, let me not talk about it first. You were teleported into the rank 5 magical beast area by mistake, so you shouldn't have hunted any magical beasts. I still have some monster essence pills here. Why not I give it to you? Having said that, without waiting for Heshi's refutation, Ouyang Haoshuan quickly took out a dozen monster essence pills of the rank 5 magical beasts and handed them to Heshi. Heshi quickly shook her head. No, I already have monster essence pill. Keep it for yourself. Ouyang Haoshuan smiled. Although I hid in the prohibition, there were also many magical beasts went in mistakenly, so I have a lot of monster essence pill myself. Moreover, I am really not interested in the prize of big hunting match, but I know that young Master Shi, you are interested in it. Seeing that Heshi wanted to refuse, Ouyang Haoshuan grabbed her hand and put the dozen monster essence pills into Heshi's palm. It's good for you. Young Master Shi, please don't reject me. Heshi froze. She actually wanted to say that she now had dozens of rank 5 monster essence pills in her storage ring. But seeing Ouyang Haoshuan's sincere expression, she still kept the monster essence pills. She couldn't always tell Ouyang Haoshuan that she got a lot of monster essence pills in the rank 5 magical beast area, right? She should just find an auteur opportunity to return this kindness in the future. When Ouyang Haoshuan originally held Heshi's small hand, he only felt that her hand was soft and smooth with a gentle and delicate touch. The slender 5-finger figures were like carved from white jade. When he pinched her palm, it felt like her palm was so soft that he couldn't feel her bone, and he could feel the temperature increase as he touched it. Ouyang Haoshuan's heart was rippling as he looked up. He just felt that the young man's eyes were bright and gorgeous, and his lips were pinky. His pair of eyes was clear like the river in autumn, and it could snatch one's heart. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.